Life's a coat of many colors. It is never black and white. Can't have one without the other. The dark without the light.
Guardian Speak is a place for law enforcement officers to transform trauma into healing through shared stories, tools, and resources.
Forever blue, forever blue. I'm putting on a show for the world to see.
Okay, well, here we are. This is Debbie Bradby,
And Cassandra Davies.
and our guest today is
Coleen Gilmartin.
and we are in Capitola, California.
So I have a question, Coleen. Debbie told me that you are a Berkeley graduate.
I am.
And isn't that a lot of brain power for a job like police?
Well, it's a completely different kind of brain power, I believe. And when I was in Berkeley, I had no thoughts of becoming a highway patrol officer or any kind of law enforcement. I wanted to be an English teacher, pretty much. But when I graduated, there were no positions for teachers.
Is that what you majored in?
No, I majored in anthropology. But I wanted to be an English major. Things turned out that the English department was not great. So that didn't work out. And I happened to meet my future husband, who was going through the academy at the time while I was at UC Berkeley. So he's the one talking about it every day that got me thinking, hey, that sounds kind of interesting and fun, since I have no idea what the heck I'm going to do for the
Okay.
rest of my life.
Yeah. I know that
So
feeling.
that's how I got into it. In fact, one of the reasons was I found out that I could never be a highway patrol officer because I could not see 20. I
Oh,
could not see 20. I believe it was 2060 or 2040 uncorrected. I can't remember what it was, and I saw 2200.
oh wow.
And so I actually went through a lot of trouble, spent a year or two while the CHP had a hiring freeze on. And I spent that time correcting my vision with some new procedure with hard contact lenses that was somewhat painful, but I could actually, by the end, see 2040 without the contacts in.
That's some dedication.
Yeah, well, I figured, hey, if someone tells me I can't do something, I'm going to try to do it
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
But I didn't think my career would last long. I thought I'd do it as a, hey, this sounds kind of fun since I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life, so I might as well try it.
Okay.
I had no idea it'd turn into a long-term career.
I think a lot of us started out that way.
Yeah. Not knowing what you're going to do.
Yeah. So how was it, how were your first years?
My first years, well, when I went to the academy, I absolutely loved it. And it was challenging in a different way, a much different way than college was, where college you only have to use one part of your brain. The part that I became good at, being able to, read, write, look at facts,
Right.
things like that. But the highway patrol was completely different. You had to learn how to shoot a gun, which I had never done. My first experience was terrifying. And even after years, I was still no good at shooting the shotgun.
Oh yeah.
I got good at everything else, but the shotgun was always my nemesis.
Yeah.
Just never good at it. I became more, I think, physically fit than I ever had been in my life. In fact, I couldn't sit still. After going through the academy, I had to run everywhere because I had so much extra energy. I was in such good shape by the end of that.
Yeah.
And it was completely different than in college, where we sat around just
Oh, yeah.
reading books, thinking, not really doing anything or utilizing our bodies. So
True.
I learned a lot in that 6 months at the academy.
Okay.
So if we could
great.
back up to, because there's some interesting facts that I know that you don't know, that you're going to go, what?
Okay.
Go back to when you met John.
Yes.
How did you meet John, first of all?
We met in the Army National Guard Band. We both happened to play trombone. So I joined it because I couldn't afford college, and after my freshman year, I ran out of money. So I decided, hey, I'll join the military because there was a band, and I already was in the cow band playing the trombone.
Okay.
So John also joined the band, I believe, a couple months after I did. So that's how we met.
And
So-
what did John play?
John also played the trombone, but he was really good at it. I was just okay.
We all have military backgrounds.
Yes, yes.
And then at some point you transferred from the Army to the fantastic Air Force.
The Air Force, which was a much better. Nobody knew about
Traitor?
the Air Force band.
Traitor? Oh my
The
gosh.
band was much better than the Air Force. So we both managed to switch to the Air Force band. Him first because he was really talented musician, so they actually really wanted him. And me, later on, they felt bad for. They figured, well, if we want to keep John in the band, we'll just have to put up with his wife. It was just a so-so musician.
So then at that point, is he a highway patrolman at that point when he's in the band?
Yeah, well, when I first met him, he was going through the testing process for the CHP.
Okay.
And then when we started dating, that was when he got accepted into the academy and started going to the academy for the 6 months. And I was still at Berkeley.
So you hadn't graduated yet.
I hadn't graduated. No.
Okay. So there's one more little stepping stone that you had, a hurdle you had to overcome to become a highway patrol officer. And at this time at Berkeley, you still were unable to drive a motor vehicle. Is that correct?
Oh, right. I had never learned how to drive. We couldn't afford a car for our family. We had one car for our family of 6. And my mom was very anxious, I guess, and did not want to teach me how to drive. So I got through 2 lessons. She gave up, and I went to college. I didn't really need a car in college. I had a moped get me around. And then when I met John, he was shocked to find that I had never learned how to drive. So he taught me how to drive. So I went to the academy with maybe, I think I'd been driving for 4 years before I got accepted to the academy. So I was sure I would flunk out on the driving part because a lot of people do.
Yeah.
A lot of people with a lot of experience driving, because that part was
Yeah.
very challenging. Things you're not usually supposed to do, like drive 140 miles per hour on
Right.
the track without killing yourself. Things like that. So I was sure that would get me out of the academy. But it turns out I had great teachers and managed to survive that part somehow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's surprising because in California, at that time, everybody knew how to drive by the time they were 16.
Yes. All
yeah.
my friends drove, and I really wanted to drive.
Yeah.
Knew I wouldn't be able to afford a car, so
Yeah.
I wasn't too disappointed. But
Yeah.
So when you went to the academy, like the first day, they kind of try to scare the bejesus out of you. And were you intimidated at all? Because having been through military boot camp, because you had to go through a boot camp,
Right.
did it affect you at all?
that didn't affect me too much. I was a pretty shy person, so part of it, I didn't really like people yelling at me, but I had a way of blending into the background and not being noticed at all, kind of hiding into the crowd. And my husband had warned me and pretty much said it was all sort of funny if you had been through it before. So I found it humorous and was able to avoid most of it. So,
I'll bet you didn't expose that you found it humorous.
No. You couldn't even crack a smile.
No.
And when you're nervous, you tend to smile and giggle, but you weren't able to do any of that stuff.
Good for you. Who do you remember anyone in the staff that kind of sticks out in your mind when you were at the academy?
Yeah, we had some good and bad staff members from what I
We
remember.
won't talk about the bad ones.
But I do remember somebody I worked with later on, Tammy Bogart, who everybody absolutely loved her. She was an EVOC, a driving instructor. And she wasn't mine, but she was just so friendly and easy to talk to, where everyone else looked like they had kind of a chip on their shoulder and wanted to make you miserable and scared of them and, in fear of losing your job every single day, whereas she was the opposite and actually tried to help you keep your job. So she was kind of a breath of fresh air, I think.
So another thing happened, which is going to segue into a lot of our other podcasts. Is there was an incident with your roommate?
Yes, the hardest time I had in the academy. I was starting to, I believe it was 3 months into the 6-month academy, and I had a roommate who I believe was 22 years old, and a very young 22, and at first we didn't get along, and then we started helping each other out, and we started becoming very close. But she was not doing well in the academy. She was failing almost every written test that we took. So she would end up staying at the academy on weekends to make up for that, because if you failed a test, you had to stay there for the weekend and you weren't allowed to go home. And so she was getting more and more depressed about it, because she really wanted this as her career and she couldn't imagine her life without it, and yet she felt that she was failing and she would be kicked out at any minute. And all of our quad mates were starting to get worried about her, because she mentioned to one of us that she had thought about just killing herself and ending her life. And we talked together about what to do about it. We didn't want to say anything, for one thing, if it wasn't true. And for another thing, she would have been very upset, because just saying something like that could get you kicked out of the academy. They don't want someone, obviously, who is going to try to commit suicide. So we were kind of stuck. We didn't know what to do. We were worried about her, keeping an extra eye on her. And then suddenly it seemed that she was better. She was suddenly happy and carefree. We were thinking, yes, we don't have to worry about her, because it was really weighing on us, wondering. We were all pretty close. There weren't that many females in the academy. I think there was only 12 of us out of 120. And right when she started to feel better, I woke up the next morning and she was gone. And so I immediately had to go to the staff office and let them know that my roommate had disappeared, and that I thought it was possible, or that she could have been suicidal. So they put an APB out, and they told me that I couldn't tell anybody. That, the story was, just don't talk about it, don't mention it. We don't have all the information yet. We're just going to go out and look for her. And that was the end. And it was devastating for me, because I had all these feelings pent up, thinking I feel guilty for not saying anything, not being able to help her, but I couldn't talk to anybody about it. I couldn't even mention the fact that I thought she might be out there dead somewhere, because I wasn't allowed to talk about it, and nobody else knew except for my quad mates. And it was just a very difficult time, having to keep all that inside, and people not letting you talk about it at all, just to get some help, support, figure out it's already so hard to spend 12 hours a day with these people that you come to care about, but you can't talk to any of them about any problems that you may be having.
That's a lot to keep in, too.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and me at 26, I was older than her, but I had never before had anybody tell me that they felt like they, wanted to end their life. And so this was my very first experience with it. Whereas if I had had another experience, I would have realized, wait, that's a sign. Once somebody starts to feel,
now we know that.
Better, it's a sign, which I didn't know before. I knew nothing about it.
What happened to her? Did she commit suicide?
I believe it was 3 days later that they found her, and she had bought some pills and some alcohol and tried, she unsuccessfully tried to commit suicide. And I believe she ended up, they wouldn't let her continue the highway patrol, but I believe she may have ended up interviewing to be a dispatcher.
Oh,
instead. But yeah, like I said, nobody was really forthcoming with information at all. So most of us were just wondering, how do we deal with this? We don't even know what happened, why it happened.
Yeah.
And I think it scared everybody there.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it did.
You're already under so much pressure as it is.
Yeah.
Like just the pressure of this was the career she wanted, and the fact she wasn't doing very well. That one thing sent her over the edge. It's a scary thing.
And that's really unfortunate that it sends a message. It sent a message to you that's, suicide is a stigmatized thing. And mental illness is so stigmatized that people can't even talk about it.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And I think the reason that I was 26 before this had ever happened to be in my life is that nobody talks about it. You
Right.
never hear
Yeah.
about it because everyone's either scared to say something,
Mhm.
which, in a way, my roommate had a point. If she had
Yeah.
talked about it, she would have been out.
Right.
They would have
Yeah.
probably sent her home.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
the
The fears.
way it would have been dealt with, that's exactly what she was scared of.
Yeah.
So,
Not an unfounded fear.
exactly.
So did any of the staff offer any kind of, like, this is a shoulder to cry on kind of thing?
No, there was nothing. There was nobody that came in to offer support, just as because everyone did find out about it. One of the staff
Yeah.
members came in to get it off his chest,
Hmm.
where I wasn't allowed to speak, but he,
Oh, wow.
was. He decided he didn't really know my roommate very well, but he decided to speak up about it, and I don't remember it being in a helpful way. In
Yeah.
fact, it's kind of disturbing.
Oh, no.
When he talked about it. But yeah, nobody, even afterwards, there was just the story about what had happened, maybe a 2-minute update on her, how she
Mhm.
was found, that kind of thing, but nothing about if you're having these kind of thoughts or problems come to us. There was no kind of education, I guess, or help.
Right.
Pretty much just suck it up if you can't handle it.
Right.
Get out. And there was one person, Officer Bogart, that was very helpful since I was having a hard time. She didn't really
Oh,
know
yeah.
me, but she went out of her way to come and say, hey, I know what happened. I know you were roommates, and, if you need someone to talk to, I'm
Yeah.
here. I'll help you out. And she really did. I mean, I think I would have made it through,
Yeah.
but it was helpful just having that one,
Right.
just even one conversation like that was amazingly helpful.
Wow.
Yeah. So you made it through the academy.
I did.
So at graduation, kind of a fun event happened.
It was,
And tell us about that.
Well, my husband, John, got to be there and actually pin my badge on me. So if you have a relative in the Highway Patrol, then they get the honor of pinning your badge. So I still remember the picture that somebody took of that because it was a very special moment. And especially that was the first time a lot of the people, either the cadets or the staff, knew that I was married to a Highway Patrol officer. I just
Oh.
didn't tell anyone. I wasn't used to talking about me or my life
Yeah.
at all. And I kind of, when you're in the academy, it's like
Oh, yeah,
that's
you
all
don't-
you can think about. You don't really, you have a family, but they're so far away, and
Yeah.
you only see them on weekends that it wasn't really part of my academy life. But yeah, that was a very special moment.
It shocked everybody.
It did.
That's great.
And they asked me, why didn't you? We would have been nicer to you. I'm like, well,
I'm sure everybody else
you
wasn't like
were
Not what I was looking
always
for.
nice. To me, but-
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
the academy is intended, to put very high level of stress on you.
Yes,
And I
very
think
stressful.
Part of their weeding out process,
Mhm.
because the job is a stressful job, and if you can't handle that, how in the world are you going to handle the real world, the real police world?
Right.
So I do get it, but I think there's also time for compassion.
Exactly.
Could have been better in your, the event that happened to you. But so then you get out of the academy, and where was your first office you went to?
I went to the Hayward office along with, there were 12 of us that went there.
That's
I
a
was,
lot.
Yeah, I was pretty thankful it happened to be the office where my husband worked at. And I was lucky enough to be able to choose which office because I had a great lottery number, which was my social security number, which is what they did it by back then. I know things are probably different now, but I felt lucky because I didn't think I would make it through the Highway Patrol if I had to break in LA, where
Oh, yeah.
before my class, most people had to go there and spend a year. And you
Wow.
learn really fast, but
Yeah.
I think it would have been probably the end of my career, because I don't know that it was so different in the Bay Area at that time than in LA that I think I had it pretty easy.
Yeah, this was
learn
the
slowly instead of
this,
really quickly.
Right. What
this was
year?
the mid 80s.
This was 95, January of 95. I got assigned to
Oh,
my
okay.
first office.
That's amazing. And I broke in Hayward. That's where I broke in, and I think I had already left by the time you got there, or I was leaving. I was on a transfer list or something, so I never got a chance to know you there. Although I did know John, and then I transferred to San Jose, where John eventually transferred, and we worked together for probably 6 months there, I think. And then I transferred to Santa Cruz, and it's funny because we kind of followed one another.
Exactly.
And then he came down to Santa Cruz
Right.
with you, who I
Right.
didn't know. So then,
Yeah, he grew up in Santa Cruz, so he had always wanted to work. He grew up in Watsonville, actually.
Oh.
So this was always where he wanted to come.
and that was his beat too. He worked down in Watsonville.
Right.
He did get the chance, seniority based, and if you have good numbers. And he was on day shift when I was on day shift, and he worked in Watsonville. And did he speak Spanish?
He did not speak any Spanish.
That's funny. I mean,
We're at the
Growing up
academy
in
to learn
Watsonville.
Spanish, so I already spoke better Spanish than him when I got out of the academy. Mine was the first class. They spent 3 weeks teaching us how to give field sobriety tests in Spanish. And they taught us so well that I spoke so well that the people I ran across that were Spanish speakers would speak really quickly to me in Spanish. I didn't understand a word they said. I wasn't able to say anything except for, "What's your birthday?"
Yeah.
Follow my finger with your eyes only, don't move your head. To this day, I have all the FSTs memorized in Spanish.
All I have is como se llama.
Not speak any Spanish. A couple words here and there, but that was about it.
Did John's family still live in Watsonville at that time, or had they moved? I know they live up north or something.
Yeah, his mom lived in Salinas for a little while he was working in Watsonville. But she had moved to Washington, I believe, a couple years later.
So he had no family in the area at that time, but he probably wanted to go to Watsonville because part of the difficulty of a new area is you don't know where you are, where your location is. But he grew up there, so he knew every little nook and cranny.
Right, exactly. And he still had a few friends from high school that were still around, so he still knew some people here.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I would want to go back to where I grew up because you have that conflict of, I know this person, how am I going to arrest them or write them a ticket or...
Or they know you and they're going to expect a gimme or freebie.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
always hard.
Yeah. So now we're going to talk about something that's a little probably, and I know it is difficult for you and it's difficult for me because I was there that day, but the day that John was killed. So the listeners don't know, but John Pedro, your husband, was killed in the line of duty in a traffic accident. And you were working, but a different shift. So
Right, I was on swing shift and he was on day shift, so we had completely opposite hours.
And you had a child.
Yes, Sarah, who was 2 years old at the time.
Did you take turns when one would go to work, the other would come home and take care of Sarah? Or
Yes.
did you have a in between? Because sometimes your shifts don't, somebody has to stay late, and what would you do when someone wasn't
Right,
available?
well, we took turns, so we both saw Sarah a lot, but we didn't see each other as much.
Oh, yeah.
And we did have an in-between babysitter for some of the days, who would watch Sarah maybe for an hour or two in between shifts and stuff. But it was nice because we lived in the area, so somebody, if there was a problem, could always drive home because somebody was always close.
Right. I mean, you guys were
But-
maybe 2 miles away from the office.
Oh, exactly. We lived very close.
Yeah.
So childcare was pretty easy to work since we worked opposite shifts. And, at the most, we needed somebody. I believe we hired a babysitter for 10 hours a week, and that was all we needed. So that part worked out.
So did you?
Perfectly.
Was that a planned baby, or was it like oops, but happy oops? Like, okay, this is.
Oh, it was definitely planned for a couple years. In fact, we had been trying to get pregnant. So she was a very happy happy coming. Yeah.
Cool. So she's 2.
Mhm.
John's working day shift, and one of the things I used to work down by Rio Del Mar Elementary School, and just as a favor to a friend who was a crossing guard there, and I'd be right in the middle of my prime time of ticket writing, and here comes John in the white car driving right through my. I'm like, dude, you're just scaring the fish. Is how I looked at it. And it's like every the same time. So I don't know if his plan, what he did, I think was he'd go down and write 1 ticket or 2 tickets, and then he would go home briefly. I don't know.
Right, I'm kind of remembering that, yes, because we lived 1 block from Rio Del Mar Elementary. So,
yeah. So I'm like, dude, come on. So this particular day, again, he worked day shift, so we saw each other every morning in briefing, and because Rich Valdez was in briefing and Sam Courtney, it was hysterical. I mean, the briefings were a comedy routine. I mean, if I would have taped it, people would have tuned in and like, oh my God, put this on Late Show because it's hysterical. So you got to be part of that little tight group. So let's talk about that day. So you're going to work swing shift probably that day.
right, so I was in bed, I was asleep, because we had completely different hours. I would probably stay up to 1 or 2 in the morning, because it'd be hard to go to sleep after coming home from swing shift. And then he, after a couple hours of sleep, he would be up. I wouldn't even wake up by the time he got up to go to work. So I don't even think I saw him that morning, as far as I know. Because I sleep like a rock, so I doubt he woke me up when he got up in the morning.
And then what happens?
Well, then I remember, I think it was 7:30 in the morning, and I heard a loud knock on the door. And I was still, mostly asleep, because I think maybe 2 o'clock I'd gone to bed. And I'm thinking, who the heck, nobody ever knocks on our door at that time of the morning. Maybe later on. I thought, what the heck is going on? So I crawl out of bed and throw on a bathrobe. And I know I look just a fright with hair everywhere, I'm sure. And I'm shocked to see the captain and I don't even remember how many, I believe 3 officers. I don't know, that part is kind of a blur.
Yeah.
But I remember
it was Janet, Cindy Morgan, and myself, and then
3. I was right.
You were right.
Okay, so I do remember.
Hey, just remember.
Sort of. And I'm thinking, what on earth? There is no reason, for these people to be at my door. But again, I'm still half asleep. Although I pretty much know when I open the door what
Something's not
exactly
right.
that something very bad has happened. But yeah, and surprisingly, I remember still a lot of that morning. I remember all the emotions, and I have probably one of the worst memories of anybody I know. It's really hard for me to remember things, but I guess when they have that big of an impact, my brain can only hold so many memories, and that's definitely a big one in my life.
And Sarah, there, I think maybe 2 hours transpired while we're talking to you,
Right.
and she stays asleep.
Oh yeah, she had actually I'm not sure she slept with me for a lot of the time, so I can't remember if she was in my bed or downstairs in her bedroom. We were going through the transition of trying to get her to sleep on her own, which was really tough. But yeah, she of course sleeps like a rock too, which I was really happy for that day, because that would have been hard to deal with it. I woke up too, because there's a lot of things to go through that day, a lot of emotions, and hard day.
So then I think it was 3 or 4 days. They're planning the funeral, which any police officer funeral is huge.
Right.
And you being a police officer, and now that kind of falls to the wayside, and now you're a mother and a widow.
Right.
Do you remember anything about any parts of the funeral that really stood out that were good for you? That you would say, yeah, they need to continue doing this, and another part is like really bad, like I wish that hadn't happened. I would want that not to happen to someone.
Well, the tough part with that is I had never, I'd barely been to any funerals, maybe 3, I'm thinking, in my life that far, because I hadn't really lost many people. And so in a way, I loved it that almost everything was taken out of my hands. that part was good, but in a way I also felt like I have no control. I kind of want a little bit, sort of, part of me wanted a little bit of control and just not have everyone, make all the decisions. But for the most part, it was really good having someone else do everything. And they pretty much took care of almost everything, just the few decisions I had to make. I realized I started calling people that we both knew to let them know, and I realized I can't do this. I would just break down crying every time I called someone. I couldn't even say hello before I started crying. So I did have family take care of that. And I decided, I think it worked out well how the Highway Patrol manages it, as long as you don't have any pre-plans beforehand. If people already were sort of organized and had plans for a funeral, that might have been hard, because the Highway Patrol kind of has a way that they want things to be done. Mm-hmm. They know, and in a way it's good, because it's good for the officers. They know, okay, the officers need something like this, something to honor, make sure the officer's life didn't just pass away and nobody notices.
Right.
So that way it was pretty good. And I did take control of one part. Like I said, my husband was an amazing musician, and he loved the trombone and the tuba, and he had a bunch of friends that played tuba. So I managed to contact one of them and get them to come and play a quartet at his funeral. And I'm like, okay, this is for John. He'll be happy with this. Mm-hmm. Nothing else really matters to me at all.
Right.
So I think that part was good. The way the Highway Patrol handles that, it was like everything was taken care of. Yeah. I can't imagine being able to do any of that on my own.
No, I couldn't.
So yeah, mostly it was good things as far as the Highway Patrol and the funeral were concerned.
So, how long, do you remember how long it was before you went back to work?
It was 4 months. And I was really worried about being able to go back to work at all. Yeah. And I felt lucky to be able, I didn't think I was really allowed to take time off. I mean, I couldn't lose my job because I was a single mother now. But I also felt like I can't work, one less person to take care of Sarah. What the heck am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And I ended up finding an au pair from Germany that worked out, perfectly. I don't think there was any other way I could have done it. But even the 4 months, just to try to get myself together, it really wasn't enough. I felt guilty even taking 4 months off. I felt like I need to, get back there, and that people shouldn't take this long, I'm a CHP officer. I have to at least pretend life is normal. Part of me wanted to go back just for that, because I didn't want to lose, every single aspect of my life.
Yeah.
When John died, because it, not just the family life, but it would be my working life.
Right.
Which was the whole other half of it. I felt like I had to go back, but I really wasn't in any shape to.
No, not quite long enough. It seems like with a lot of first responder jobs, the military, police, firefighter, that there's duty is ingrained in your cells. Where you do feel, like even taking a day off, you could be flat on your back with the flu and feel like I should be at work, can't breathe, can't see.
Well, especially like on day shift, we're supposed to have like 8 people, but oftentimes we'd be working with 5, and if, that's just how it was. And I knew if I called in sick, there'd be 4 people working the entire county. Exactly. So I would drag myself in no matter what. So there's that part of it. But when you came back, did you go back to the road? Because you had been on the road.
Right. And I didn't. I talked to the captain, and the Highway Patrol was pretty helpful. I had a choice. I was able to work inside, so I did accident investigation because they always needed help with that. And I thought, okay, this is a good middle of the road. I'm not out, in a patrol car, and I could not even get in a patrol car for a long time. Just hearing a siren would make me freeze up and start getting anxiety. So the first time I was in a patrol car, just to drive on an errand somewhere. It was hard. Just that one little bit was hard. It was a weird transition. Like, I knew I wasn't ready to do it, but I figured, hey, I'm inside, I can survive like this. And I kind of needed to. I mean, not only financially, but I couldn't imagine my life without, my career and my husband both being gone. So just had to do it. Although they didn't make it easy. It wasn't the highway patrol, but workers' compensation, just to get workers' comp for those 4 months was really difficult. They denied my claim. And it just added so much stress. I'm like, this is not even worth it. I probably would have taken more time.
I could just hear them. 3 days should have been enough.
Exactly. Right. So, and you hear all these stories in the Highway Patrol that people, abuse the system and they go out on stress for reasons that most people don't necessarily agree with. And, so it frustrated me thinking that I couldn't even function, and yet, the stress didn't really count, or I should still be able to work.
Right.
But so that system was kind of tough to get through. But I did go back to work, and it did work out. I mean, it had its challenges. The Highway Patrol is not the best place to work as a single parent. I found out, especially when you're on the road, which I did eventually go back to the road.
Okay.
And that, you can't go to court because you have no babysitter.
Yeah.
So try to only write tickets for people that are, going 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, or such cut and dry tickets that nobody will take you to court.
Right.
But
how did your daughter do during that time? I imagine it must have been.
Yeah, well, she was going through the terrible twos, so it was very difficult.
Yeah.
Because she, probably felt every bit of anxiety and fear that I had.
Right.
Plus, she was going through the terrible twos. Plus, I could barely take care of myself. So trying to deal with a screaming 2-year-old was really hard. It took years for both of us to get back to where it was somewhat normal. It never really became normal. I mean, it's never really normal to lose a parent,
right.
Even if, she didn't remember him. But years later, she would start to ask questions. She couldn't as a 2-year-old. She hadn't even learned how to talk yet, pretty much until she was 3.
Yeah.
So it's like it kept coming up later on. When she was 3 and 4 and 5, she'd have all these questions. And I remember going to her, I think it was her first grade class, where parents would come in and talk about their jobs.
Oh, yeah.
So I came in, teacher asked if I would come in, so I come in to talk about my job, but none of the kids wanted to talk about that. They just wanted to talk about Sarah's father and how he died and how that made me feel. And I mean, the teacher could not get them back to the subject because, I guess that's a big thing as a first grader.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much the beginning of the end. My first grader realized.
Oh, yeah.
I could lose another parent.
Oh.
And she, would talk to me about it every day.
Oh,
Did you die too? Mom, and isn't your job dangerous? And, all kinds of stuff like that. It made me realize, okay, I got to think about another plan here. Because, she already was a very anxious child. Afraid of a lot of things, everything. She was pretty much scared of everything.
Well, she felt everything you felt.
Exactly. I'm like, I don't want her to grow up being scared of everything.
So then the Santa Cruz office gets this awesome guy, this awesome lieutenant, Mike Walker. Whom I adored, and I know you did too.
Oh, everybody loved the guy.
Yeah, and he brought a compassion and a fun feeling to the office, and you were working inside then.
I was.
And I think I was too. So, and,
yeah.
And then New Year's Eve happens, and Mike Walker is killed, and he's a lieutenant, and he shouldn't have been out there, but he was out there. It was some weird thing they were doing, the Highway Patrol, having the supervisor staff be there on New Year's Eve to work, and so he and a sergeant were working together, and these 2 officers, were going to have dinner with their wives, and it's raining on Highway 17. which is dangerous. And there's a spin out, and the young men are called to it, but the lieutenant and the sergeant say, no, we're out here, we'll take care of it. It's just a spin out, nothing to worry about.
Oh boy.
Well, it ends up Lieutenant Walker gets killed in this, and so there's a whole other story, those young men and the guilt that they felt. But
Well,
for
yeah.
those of us that loved him, getting that phone call was shocking. I mean, I completely lost it, and
Yeah.
and so I'm not sure who let you know.
I remember that day. It was the first day I met Mike Walker's family. In fact, I was on a first date with Kevin Devery, and we went to the aquarium because I just started feeling good. And part of it was Mike being in the office. He suddenly made me start feeling good about my career, about my place in life. I thought, man, maybe I can find a way to stay with the highway patrol and, do a different job that's not going to scare Sarah. And I was starting to get excited. And, I was thinking, hey, I'm getting my life back. And me and Kevin go to the aquarium and we're having a great time. And then we see Mike there. And this was... New Year's, I guess it was New Year's Eve, or the day before that now. And so we met Michelle and the girls for the first time. And I'm like, oh, this is so cool because we had both heard so much about each other.
Yeah.
And, it was just a great day altogether. And then Kevin is the one who tries to call me. And the thing is, back then I had started... the sound of a doorbell or a phone still, I tried to avoid. Somebody called me in the middle of the night, I'm not going to answer the phone. I tried to avoid any of those things. And, so finally I hear a knock on the door, because someone wasn't going to let me ignore the phone call.
Yeah.
And, so I hear that way. And that was a big blow. You think finally your life's starting to come back together and then another person is gone. Yeah.
So
that was a tough one.
From there, how much longer did you stay with the Highway Patrol after Mike was killed?
Not very long. I'm thinking a couple months, maybe 6 months. But that's when I seriously looked at, okay, I got to figure out how it's going to work and do research and, make sure I can still get health insurance and all the stuff so that I could leave.
Yeah.
So that's when I started planning all of that stuff, just to make sure, because I was positive once he died that there's no way I was going to stay very long. That was going to be the end.
This is the end of part 1.